Well, good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday morning and time for our morning devotional. And our title this morning is The Father of the Righteous, and it's from the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 23, verse 24. The father of the righteous will greatly rejoice. He who fathers a wise son will be glad in him. Have you ever seen one of those children? That's just the one that just seems out of control, especially in public places. Retail stores seem to be the favorite places for the unruly, especially at the checkouts where all that stuff at the registers is very enticing to small eyes. Tens of thousands of petulant fits have been thrown at retail store checkouts. Restaurants may be a close second, and it's not a rare thing to see kids playing in between tables while parents dine. That's great for those parents, but not so good for the other guests of the restaurant. I also understand that kids can only behave at their developmental age. I would not necessarily expect an infant to sit quietly in a fine restaurant and behave like a little lady or little gentleman. On the other hand, it is reasonable to expect a 6-year-old to at least act like a human and not an animal. Proverbs as a whole is not really a book of commandments or promises from God so much as it is guidance on how to achieve good outcomes in life. In other words, if you do such and such a thing, you will probably have good outcomes. On the other hand, if you do not, you most likely will not have good incomes. This psalm, in large part, has two main themes, really. The first is if we teach and discipline our children, they will, more likely than not, learn to behave like humans rather than animals. Discipline, while sometimes painful to administer, usually produces blessings. Raising well-behaved members of society is certainly a blessing to parents. And the second is that young people ought to listen to and respond to their parents' teaching and discipline. Young people, if you do that, you most likely will act like a human and not an animal. And trust me, being a well-behaved member of society is a blessing for the one who acts right as much as it is for their teachers. So our question today is, parents, are you teaching your children? And children, are you listening to your parents? Have a blessed day in the Lord, my friends.